Thank you for joining the Holy Help Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Metcalf, and today I'm going to be giving a personal testimony of how God brought me through COVID-19 last year. Let's talk about that. So you may hear some noise outside, some rumbles of thunder. We are in southern Ohio, and it is storming pretty ferociously at the moment. And so just wanted to let you know, if you hear that, that's what that is. But I felt impressed upon my heart today to give this testimony for someone. I know a lot of us have been affected by COVID-19, and it's all over. The map as far as how people feel about the virus. I understand that. How people feel about the vaccine, I understand that. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about my testimony. Many were affected by the virus, and many have lost friends and family. And it was just a horrific thing. And hopefully that storm has passed, and hopefully we'll be thankful for that. But I want to give my testimony. Last November, it would have been around the 15th, I believe, of November, thereabouts, maybe a few days before that, I started to get I felt really achy all over, just aching in my shoulder and in my neck. I was like, oh man, what is going on with this? And so I was working and on my way home from the road. And when I got close back to home, I called the chiropractor and scheduled an appointment to come in. They said, well, where are you at? I said, well, I'm about 15 minutes out. And they said, well, come on in and we'll give you, we'll line you out. So went to the chiropractor. That would have been on a Tuesday. And I felt some better after I left the chiropractor and went home and woke up early Wednesday morning with a fever, just feeling terrible. I had a meeting at work, went on into the meeting, not knowing, what was going on. And so I get to the meeting and I barely remember being there. I had a fever, not feeling good. And so I told my boss there, I said, hey, I'm going to go home. I'm going to bed. I feel terrible. But we had a trip scheduled for Tennessee the following day. I felt awful taking off work that day. And my wife said, so what are we going to do? Are we going to go to Tennessee or not? I said, well, let's go to bed and see how we feel tomorrow. And at this point, she was not feeling good either. And so we get up the next morning. Both of us are feeling pretty well fine. It felt normal. We get up the mountain there around Jellicoe, past Jellicoe, up toward Oak Ridge, I believe it was. And we stop to get something to eat at Subway there. So from the time that I went in till I came out, I had a huge headache, just aching all over, weak, and a fever, just not feeling good at all. I mean, not at all. And so we continue on the trip. Both of us keep feeling worse and worse as the trip goes on. Spent most of that trip either in the vehicle or at the hotel, and sleep was horrendous. Just could not sleep, just terrible nightmares and dreams, and just could not rest and just could not get comfortable. And so we finished that trip. Now it's getting close to Thanksgiving. We get back the first of the week there, Monday, and I was hoping to go back to work. I was hoping that this flu virus, I thought, would pass. And so that week goes on. I still have a fever. I'm still out of work. And all the way through Thanksgiving, we miss Thanksgiving with family and with our friends. And here we are. We're all sick. We don't feel good. And after Thanksgiving, someone dropped us off some dinner on the step here at home, and we had Thanksgiving dinner. We really didn't feel like eating, but I think we might have eaten a few bites of that. But at any rate, took a COVID test and tested positive for COVID-19 at home. So fast forward to Friday. Friday rolls around. I'm feeling terrible. I go to the family doctor. They test me outside. They say, well, you test negative for COVID-19, but you test positive for influenza type A. Great. Okay. So now I've got the flu. I don't have COVID. I have the flu, but my test said I had COVID. Anyway, my oxygen begins to drop. At that point, it had dropped and was in the early 90s. And then I went to bed, tried to sleep, almost impossible to sleep, but that Saturday morning, I woke up and my oxygen was dipping into the 70s. I get to the ER and I barely remember being there. And so the thing that I remember is when they finally were taking me down the hall, the nurse, he was helping me there, and he said, "So what brings you in?" I said, "Well, I didn't want to die sitting at home in front of my children, and that's why I'm here." Well, he immediately said, "Well, sir, you're not going to die here. Let's get you this room and let's get you some help." They put some oxygen on me, ran some tests, and come back and said, "Sir, you're not going home. You're in very serious condition. We're going to transport you to a hospital once there becomes a bed that is available." And so several hours went by. They found a bed there and transported me to the hospital. And here I was looking out the window. I remember looking out the window, watching my wife drive past at the hospital there, the ER, the little ER, before I was transported. I remember looking at that vehicle. And as I looked out, I seen, my wife and children in the vehicle. And I really did not know if that would be the last moment that I would ever see my family in this world. And so they transport me to the hospital. No one knows at this point. No one knows what's going to happen. And we just have to try to hold on to faith. And, here we are in this life, and all these things affect us, and we don't know exactly what the outcome's going to be. We can't see the end from the beginning, or the beginning from the end. We're not able to view. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. So we just have to hold on to faith. I end up in the hospital in intensive care, kind of a step down intensive care, not actually on the intensive care floor, but still being in monitored with all the same monitoring as intensive care. And my oxygen fluctuates, and just mental, the clarity of my mind was just gone. I was numb, really, in every sense of the word. I just couldn't concentrate. My spirit was numb. My body was numb. I was sick. I couldn't breathe. And then to top that off, I knew my wife was almost as equally as sick, minus the oxygen problems, and she was at home with the children, and everyone was sick. And here I sat in this hospital, and just really depression set in the hospital, and my blood pressure was through the roof. And so what I did is I did the only thing I knew to do. I really couldn't think straight, so I turned on some music, and I turned on Eddie James, and Eddie James was singing, "Lord, make me a house of prayer." And he got to sing in the house of prayer, and then I turned on another song, "I am the bread and I am the wine, I am your future, so leave the past behind. I'm the one in the midst of two or three, I'm your tabernacle, and I'm your jubilee, I am." And when I began to listen to those words of that song that rang in my heart, and the Spirit of God came down in that room, and I felt the presence of God in that room for that moment. The nurse came in, and when she came in, I said, "Check my blood pressure again. I believe it's went down." And she said, How do you know that?" I said, "Well, when you stepped out of here, I turned some music on, and the spirit of worship came down in this room, and I felt like God touched my blood pressure." And it had been, I think, 190. I'm trying to remember now what it was exactly. Excuse me. I believe it was around 190/90. I believe is what it was when she had went out of the room before, and she come back, and it had regulated to where it was not quite normal, but it was a lot lower, like 30 points lower than what it was, and it was just, I felt peace at that moment. But there I was, and for all those days, I can't remember now how many days I was in the hospital. It seemed like it was close to a week that I was in the hospital. And while I was in there, there was days that I was so weak and just didn't have strength and didn't know if I could make it. And I kept holding on holding on to God, trying to feel after God. And I'll be honest with you, there were some times when I couldn't feel him. I couldn't perceive him. And in that moment, I felt like Job, and I looked around, and he wasn't on my right hand, and it didn't look like he was on the left, and didn't look like he was above me or beneath me. It looked like and felt like I was all alone in that room. And here I was all alone. I was sick. I really felt like I was dying, and I felt like I was there to do it all by myself. Finally, I looked to the right of me over there at the wall, and tears running down my face. I said, Lord, where are you? I need you. I need you here right now. I need you beside me. I need to know you're here. Where are you? And I felt the Lord speak in my spirit. And I heard the Lord say to me, I am with you always, even to the end of the world. And I felt the Spirit of God rise up in my heart, and that numbness went away, and all that depression. I was still sick. I was still in the hospital, but I felt the breath of hope, and I felt like everything was going to be okay if I could just make it another day, if I could just hold on. It was so hard. It was so hard to hold on. Sometimes it's hard to hold on when you don't understand, or when you're sick, or when you don't have any even feeling. No, I didn't have spiritual feeling, and I was physically numb, and I was feeling so terrible in every way, so weak. I couldn't even walk to the chair in the room. Finally, my oxygen began to stabilize, and they were going to let me come home. And finally, when I got home, it wasn't an easy task. Even when I did get home, there was still struggles. But my mother told me, she said, Aaron, she said, one night, and it would have been, I believe, a Wednesday night would have been, when this would have happened. She said, we were at church and we began to sing a song. The song is A Wall of Prayer. And the song mentions about a wall of prayer surrounding me. Sometimes it's a wall of faith. Sometimes it's a wall of mercy that I need. I don't know all the words, but a wall of prayer. And she said, we were singing that, and she said, son, I'm just going to tell you, I seen a vision. She said, I seen you sitting in that hospital room. And I want you to know, my mom's not one to tell about seeing things all the time. It's very rare that she would mention something like that. But she said, son, I seen a vision. She said, and I seen you sitting there in that hospital bed. But she said, just like an angel was putting a wall up around you, a wall of prayer. She said, I knew at that moment you was going to be all right, and you was going to come out of there. Praise the Lord. I thank God for prayer. Prayer makes a difference. Prayer changes things. And I just want to encourage you today. I don't know what you're praying about, but God is able to answer your prayer. God is able to see through the clouds and through the dark, and He's able to reach out and help you no matter where you are. I just felt like giving this testimony tonight. Here I am now. I've recovered for the most part, and still my oxygen just struggles sometimes to stay in the mid-90s, but God is with us and God is helping us. And I just want to thank God for bringing me out and bringing me through from this door. But most of all, I want to thank Him that He let me know I am with you. And I want to let you know right now, it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter where you've been, that God is still with you today.